Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, Duchesne, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Romero, Runner, Semidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
Quorum is not present and has been duly noted. The Sergeant-at-Arms will lock the doors and call the absent members. Sergeant-at-Arms, please call the absent members for purposes of establishing a quorum.
Onestad, Alquist, Ashburn, Benoit, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, Duchesne, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Romero, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
Yes, quorum is present.
A quorum is present. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our guest chaplain, Georgia Prescott, after which Please remain standing. We will then be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator DeSaulnier.
Good morning. If you would just take a moment to take a breath and go within with me for a moment, if you will. There is one presence, one power in the universe known by many names. No need to invite the power into the room because the power is already here and with us in every step we take. This power, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, is in each senator and in his or her staff and each of their constituents. Simply then we turn our attention to this presence, allowing the infinite intelligence that is within us to govern today's proceedings. I welcome the atmosphere of divine understanding and patience so that whatever needs to be said is said and whatever needs to be heard is heard with the understanding that God is in the house. The great Muslim teacher and poet Rumi once wrote, "Out beyond right doing and wrongdoing there is a field. I'll meet you there." May Rumi's teachings be the foundation of today's proceedings. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Privileges of the floor, if any. Senator Correa, for what purpose?
For purposes of introduction, sir, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Consul General of Japan in the back of the chambers, Mr. Yasumasa Nagamin. Gentlemen, let's help me welcome.
Please join Senator Correa in welcoming our guest to the House. Further privileges of the floor, Senator Negrete McLeod. Senator Negrete McLeod at her desk.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to bring up item 46, Senate Current Resolution 42.
Without objection. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 42 by Senator Negrete McLeod relative to Classified School Employee Week.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Today I rise in honor of SCR 42, which declares May 17th through May 23, 2009 as Classified School Employee Week, and encourage the public to give recognition to classified school employees for their numerous contributions and invaluable services to California's public schools and community colleges. California's classified school employees are integral in making our schools and community colleges work. From the bus drivers who pick up the kids to take them to school, to the food services workers making lunch, to the financial aid staff who find the money to cover college tuition, everyone that is classified in these institutions, they are the cogs that make the engine work. I ask for your aye vote and join me in recognizing the many and varied contributions of all of these wonderful individuals that are the ranks of the classified employees.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad, Alquist, aye. Ashburn, Benoit, Ashburn, aye. Benoit, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, aye. Corbett, Correa, aye. Cox, aye. Denham, aye. DeSaulnier, aye. DeCheney, Dutton, Flores, aye. Hancock, Harmon, aye. Hollingsworth, aye. Huff, aye. Kehoe, aye. Leno, aye. Liu, aye. Lowenthal, aye. Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, aye. Oropesa, Padilla, aye. Pavley, aye. Romero, Runner, Semidion? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Hancock, aye. Benoit, aye.
Can we call the absent members?
Onestad? Calderon? Cedillo? Corbett? Ducheney? Dutton? Maldonado? Oropesa? Romero? Runner? Mr. President, ayes 29, no 0.
Ayes 29, no 0. The resolution is adopted, and without objection, Senator Negrete McLeod has permission for photographers on the floor and would like to introduce her guests at Senator Steinberg's desk.
Thank you, Mr. President. You couldn't see me, right? In honor of this being Classified Employee Week, I wish to present Mr. Ron Fechner, President of the California School Employees Association, with a resolution recognizing the work of the classified school employees. It was CSEA that spearheaded the effort to create the Classified School Employee Week, which began as a resolution at a CSEA annual conference in 1984. 2 years later, it was adopted as Senate Bill 1552 and decreed to be an official recognition of classified school employees. Today, CSEA members celebrate the week with picnics, barbecues, and other social events. At work, many CSEA members wear CSEA shirts and other symbols of pride. In addition to CSEA, classified employees are represented by the California Teachers Association, the California Federation of Teachers, and the California School Employees Association, the Service Employees International Union in our local schools and community colleges. And I'd like to present this resolution to Mr. Rob Fechner, if I could have him come forward.
Senator Negrete McLeod, let me ask that the Senate join you in welcoming your guests. Members, without objection, we will return to privileges of the floor. Are there any additional privileges of the floor? Seeing none, reports of the committees. Mr. Secretary, please read, if any.
Mr. President, the Committee on Health, to which was referred, Assembly Joint Resolution 9, reports the same back with recommendation be adopted. Mr. President, the Committee on Health, to which was referred, Assembly Bill 169, reports the same back with recommendation do pass, but first be re-referred to the Committee on Public Safety.
Without objection, reports from committees will be deemed read. Motions, resolutions, and notices, if any. Motions and resolutions, members. Without objection, the following resolutions will be withdrawn from committee and placed on today's special consent calendar, SR 22, ACR 27, without objection. Consideration of the daily file. Members, we will go to Senate third reading, file item 14. File item 14, members. Senator Liu, not at her desk. Senator 15, Senator Calderon, excuse me, file item 15, Senator Calderon. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 683 by Senator Calderon, an act relating to workers' compensation.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I bring before you SB 683. The California law recognizes self-insured groups, referred to as SIGs, as nonprofit mutual benefit corporations, which exist solely to provide workers' compensation coverage for their members. Members of the group are jointly and severally liable for the members. And members of the
Senator Calderon, one moment. Members, as we take up items on third reading, could we keep quiet in the hall, please? Thank you. Senator
Thank you very much. Members of the group are jointly and severally liable for all losses. Group members contribute to the SIG, which pays all expenses, provides safety and loss control services, and pays the claims for injured workers. And SIG is not an insurance company. SB 683 requires group workers' compensation self-insurers to file with the Director of the Office of Self-Insured Plans an annual audit of the financial records of group self-insurers by an independent certified public accountant. The audit is required to be filed with the Director of the Office of Self-Insured Plans, but is not generally available. So as the bill moves forward, SB 683 will serve as the Senate vehicle for added SIG law changes based on a report of the Commission on Health and Safety and Workers' Compensation that is being finalized. Now, I have placed a letter that's been reviewed and approved by the leadership, and I've placed a letter with states that this intent with the Senate desk. I request that it be placed in today's journal without objection. Thank you. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Debate and discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Dutton? Aye. Flores? Hancock? Harmon? Hancock, aye. Harmon, aye. Hollingsworth? Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Romero? Runner? Aye. Smidian? Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Denham, aye. Hollingsworth, aye.
Call the absent members.
Cedillo, Corbett, Ducheney, Flores, aye. Maldonado, Oropesa, Pavley, Romero, Steinberg. Steinberg, aye. Ducheney, aye. Mr. President, ayes 33.
Ayes 33, no 0. The bill is passed. File item 16, Senator Ducheney. Pass. File item 17, Senator Hancock. Pass temporarily. File item 18, Senator Corbett not at her desk. File item 19, Senator DeSaulnier. Pass temporarily. File item 20, Senator Pavley. Pass on file. File item 21, Senator Wright. Senator Wright, Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 381 by Senator Wright, an act relating to high school instruction.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Once again, I have a bill that's actually very simple and uncomplicated and doesn't involve a great deal of effort. But let me tell you, what this bill simply says is that we're going to follow the law in the Education Code. Some of you may recall that we recently passed a series of bonds to do infrastructure work. And when we passed that bond, we hoped that we would provide work. In fact, the term that we used was, is the project shovel ready? Well, I'll remind you that a shovel is a tool used by a person who works blue collar. We don't have enough workers in California to perform the infrastructure bond work that we just voted because we don't train people to do blue collar work anymore. Something happened along the way where we decided that that was no longer worth doing. This bill, interestingly enough, Mr. President, brings together virtually every major employer and trade union in the state of California. It also brings together every major business group. But on the other hand, it's opposed by the people who are proposed to provide that training. It's an interesting dichotomy that the people who hire say this is what I need, and the people who should provide the training say that they don't like to do it. There are a number of things that I could go into. I've had a number of good meetings with this bill, Mr. President. I'm proud of my work that we'll get some input from the pro tem on this bill, but essentially what it says is there'll be equity and choice for students in high school, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion. Senator Alquist.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. You know, this bill in its current form really puts me in an unusual situation. I happen to be both pro-career tech and pro-high academic standards. The bill in its current form, and I understand the author might be taking amendments in the Assembly, but in its current form it says that high schools, that whatever they're doing in A to G, they've got to be doing the same in career tech. And that might be a goal several years down the line, but it's nothing that schools can do overnight. And it puts some school districts in the positions of saying, hey, well, if we have to do it this way, we're not going to do either. And I hate to see some of the good things that have been done be erased. So I'm speaking to say that I will not be voting on the bill. I'm actually not trying to influence anyone else's choice. But should the bill come back here in a form that provides more flexibility in obtaining this goal, then I would be in support. Thank you.
Senator Weiland.
This bill is one of the most important bills we will see this session. Rome is burning. We have a dropout rate in the second largest school district in this country of 50% or greater among Latino and African American students. We cannot sustain California. We will endlessly be in the crisis we're in now if we cannot graduate students with skills. Now, when I first started working on this 9 years ago, at that time many said, well, you know, you just want to channel kids of color from lower socioeconomic backgrounds into dead-end jobs. I said, no, we don't want to do that. There's lots of ways around that. When I was on a school board, when we had schools that had high concentrations of kids, for example, who didn't speak English, we made sure that we had as many of those recognized as gate kids on a percentage basis as we did at any other school. This is not an attempt to not have AP courses in all these schools, to make sure that we generate as much college-going talent as we possibly can. What this is a recognition of what every other industrialized country on this planet does. What we are doing is, if we don't do this, we are saying to a 14 or 15-year-old kid who happens not to enjoy academic work, but who is dying to have a sense of meaning in their lives, a sense of self, we are saying to them, if you don't enjoy calculus, if you don't enjoy literature, there is something wrong with you. The reality is, in this state, in a prior era, most high schools were comprehensive high schools. When I went to high school, and by the way, there were virtually no kids of color there. These were white middle-class kids. Half of them took these courses. And the courses had a broad range, what we call now computer-aided design. Now you can do that. You did that then with drafting. A full range of these courses. These courses are now much more sophisticated. The code requires that we do this. It requires that we prepare students for college. We are not addressing this problem unless we do this. Now, let me talk a little bit about middle-class white kids. Here's the reality. Lots of them are in the same exact boat. This is not just kids in urban areas. I'll just give you two examples from my own life, and I know you have many others. One boy, his parents are both teachers. The only reason he graduated from high school was because his parents won't let him drop out. That's how he's able to graduate. But he drifts into college for a couple of semesters. He becomes a painter for a while. Now he's a baker. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. Another kid, he's also just graduated. He does not like academic work. He doesn't want to go to college. There's a huge need for these students and a need for them to have self-respect and a need for us to respect them. The dirty little secret behind a lot of this is that in a society that says we're all egalitarian and the same, we think, well, gee, if you don't really go to college, you aren't really quite the same as someone who does. We ought to face up to that. That's wrong. This is liberating, and it addresses all those kids who right today we are failing by allowing them some other reason to be in school. If you ask these kids the main reason they drop out, all the studies show they're bored. They're not interested. The other thing that all the records with CTE courses show is that more of those kids not only do graduate, actually more of those kids do go to college. This is a very important bill. We shouldn't shy away from it because we're asking school districts to do something they should already be doing. I strongly urge passage of this bill.
Senator Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in favor of SB 381 for many of the same reasons that have been cited and perhaps some that have not. I do believe that SB 831 will make possible the real combination of career pathways with high academic learning. This can be done. I've seen it done in academies that I participated in starting in my district, and we know that the multiple pathways approach gets many young people who didn't see the relevance of academic learning excited by it and gives all young people an opportunity to consider career areas for their future and imagine responsible adult futures for themselves. So this is an important bill to move forward, members. I think it has sparked many important conversations within the education community and among legislators, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Senator Dutton.
Yeah, I'll be very brief because I agree with many of my colleagues' statements on both sides of the aisle regarding the importance of SB 381. I've long been a supporter of this type of legislation or this type of encouragement for our young people, and frankly, the fact of the matter is that SB 381 is the type of economic stimulus legislation that we should be supporting right now, particularly at this time. Our high school students right now do not have the basic skills necessary to go out and actually be a productive member of society. It's time that we deal with the reality of what we're faced with here in California. The more we do to help this next generation prepare themselves to go out into the labor force and be part of a successful California and a future here in California, the better off we're all going to be. So I would urge support for this legislation. I think it's an excellent opportunity to really start doing some things that are going to be beneficial to the economic future of California.
Senator Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Though the Senate floor tradition is to limit debate on most matters, I'm very happy to see the number of microphones up on this very important bill, because this is worthy of our discussion and much more. I support Senator Wright's bill, but with a little bit of a twist here. And I want to use my time on the floor to explain what I think needs to happen, not just with this bill, but with the broader agenda. Senator Wright's bill sends a message, and I think an appropriate message, that career technical education needs to have a stronger place in the curriculum of our K-12 system. And Senator Weiland and others, I think, have articulately pointed out why. It is unacceptable to have a 21% dropout rate in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest nation in the world. We are not only forsaking too many kids, and mostly kids of color, by the way, but we are also zapping our economic vitality. Plain and simple, this ought to be a priority. But here's where Senator Wright's bill, in my view, ought to go. There is a false debate in this state and in this Capitol that if we're really going to succeed with career technical education and ending the dropout rate, we must be committed to overcoming. The false debate is between those who say it's about high standards and those who say it's about CTE. And what happens here in the world of advocacy and the way bills are looked at and the way things come down, even unintentionally, it's too often one or the other. And in fact, it is both. Because those who downplay CTE because they are rightfully concerned about tracking kids of color, I think have a point, as do the CTE folks who say, by virtue of focusing so much on the so-called A to G higher ed UC requirements, you're not making enough time for career pathways for all kids. They're both right, and there's only one answer, and that is the new 3 R's in public education: rigor, relevance, and relationship. A career pathway for a construction worker must include rigorous math. But here's the hard work, members, and this is where I hope Senator Wright's bill goes. We've got to get the CSU, the UC, and others into this conversation to do the following. Algebra ought to be taught in 10 different applied ways in this state. That's the answer here, 10 different applied ways. It shouldn't just be taught one way with 6 rows and 40 students in a classroom out of the same textbook. If you're on a career pathway to be a construction worker, to be a biotech engineer, to be a health technician, there is no reason why we cannot develop the creativity and the ingenuity to teach rigorous algebra applied to each of those subject matters. If we do nothing but focus on developing applied curriculum across the board for the so-called A to G standards, we can merge career education with high standards in a way that will end the false debate, create a coalition of the kind we have never seen before, and actually end the plight of the high school dropout. And so Senator Wright's bill is a piece of it, and I know we've had discussions with Senator Alquist and Senator Romero and others about using it in part to incentivize the CSU, which is the biggest teacher training entity in the state, to begin developing these applied curriculum. We're going to hear much more about this subject as the year and the years go on. And Democrat and Republican, this is our singular chance to build a nonpartisan, bipartisan agenda that focuses on all that we care about. I urge and I vote.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Pavley.
Just a question of the author that he can answer in his close. One of my just practical concerns of this is CSUs and UCs actually offering majors in this kind of curriculum. Most career tech or vocational trained teachers are probably in their 50s or 60s or retired. I don't know if those courses are available, and we do know under No Child Left Behind, unless you have a major in these courses, you're not allowed to teach them. And so maybe the author can explain that to me in his close.
Thank you, Senator Pavley. Before we go to Senator Wright for his close, Senator Weiland.
I was pleased to find out that Senate rules do allow one to speak twice on a bill. I like and appreciate the comments from each. I appreciate Senator Steinberg, your comments. You're precisely right. We do need to apply these skills. I would just make two further comments. One is that the source of teachers for many of these courses used to be the CSUs. The CSUs ended the majors that created the teachers for these courses. When you talk to the CSU, they say, well, we're only an academic institution. We will no longer teach these courses. And I'd like to make another comment that illustrates what I consider the prejudice against a lot of students who aren't interested in purely academic courses. Let's talk for a moment about the G requirement. The G requirement for the CSU, which is adopted by the UC. The CSUs, which educate teachers and most of our students, don't adopt their own admission requirements. They take it from the UC. Well, the G requirement, which is the optional courses, the electives, if you look at the standard by which they are approved, it says specifically that it will only be approved if there is academic, theoretical, non-practical content. Well, guess what? Guess what, members? Go to a high school and look at any art practice course, a drawing course, a painting course, a sculpting course, a video course, which many high schools now have. They all get G recognition, even though they are devoid of academic content. Why do they get it? It's almost, to use a Marxist word, it's classism. It's a sense that the arts somehow are better, higher. That's what educated people do, is the arts. They violate their own standard with regard to calling those electives. Part of what this would do is allow G recognition for courses that also have, for example, if you follow Senator Steinberg's suggestion, which is very important, have an element of academic content, because we do apply those sorts of courses to these, and algebra and math to these courses. So again, I think for all the reasons stated, and I'm glad we've had this debate, this is crucial to those students. We are immoral and unethical as a body, aside from the need, if we abandon these students, and that's what we are doing if we do not give them these opportunities. This is an important bill, and I strongly urge its passage.
Senator Wright, you may close.
Thank you. And let me again thank the body for the discussion on this bill. I want to go back to Senator Pavley's question, if I can, Mr. President. Pro Tem Steinberg raised one of the things that we're going to have to do, particularly at the CSU level, which was the place where we trained many of the vocational ed teachers to go back and do that work. You often hear a discussion, members, about tracking. Tracking is a concept that said that I would take black and Latino kids and deter them from going to college because I would only offer them industrial occupations classes. Particularly for the African American child today, let me give you a reality of what we're talking about. Last year, 24,000 African American kids graduated from high school. Of that number, 2,400 were eligible to go to college. Of that number, 1,900 were eligible for the UC. Of that number, 400 were eligible for UCLA or Berkeley. Contrast that to the fact that in that same period of time, we sent 50,000 African Americans to prison. We are tracking, members. We're just tracking people into prison. I would submit to you that if we're successful at making an inmate a plumber, that's success. If we're successful at making an inmate an electrician, that's success. Because everybody doesn't wish to go to college. Not only is that true, but let me turn you on to another fact. We can only take, assuming that the 10th grade class all stayed in, We can only take 30% of the student body to college anyway, irrespective of what classes they take and irrespective of what grade point average they get. We will only get 30% in. UCLA right now rejects 10 of every 12 applications for admittance. In Los Angeles County, there's a school called Trade Technical College. At Trade Technical College, 35% of the students have a bachelor's degree. That means that they went to the four-year school, obtained the bachelor's degree, now they have a $75,000 or $100,000 worth of debt, and they're in a culinary class because they couldn't get a job. So we have to regroup our education. The LA Unified School District, where I come from, is opposed to the bill. But let me tell you something about them. They just spent $5 billion rebuilding schools. There was not a single class that they taught to train their own students to go to work. So we imported people from outside of Los Angeles to come into poor neighborhoods and do work that should have been done by the people locally. That should be a crime in and of itself. I would say to you that if we don't go back and look at career tech, understanding that shovel ready means just that that's a blue collar occupation, and we shouldn't denigrate somebody because they work with their hands. I've worked with my hands all my life. As a matter of fact, I am a proud blue collar worker. It might be a Brioni collar, but it's blue nonetheless. And on that, I would ask for your aye vote for this bill.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? Aye. Alquist? Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? Aye. Semidian?
No.
No. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? No. Wolk? Wright? Aye. Weiland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Maldonado, aye. Mr. President, ayes 32, noes 2. Ayes 32, noes 2. The bill is passed. Senator Pavley, for what purpose do you rise?
For the purpose of introduction.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, you probably noticed up front we have an addition of a flag we don't normally fly here in the Senate chambers. It's the flag of the United Kingdom, and it's in honor of a distinguished delegation that's now in the back of the chambers. They are 3 members of the United Kingdom Parliament's Cross-Party Environmental Audit Committee. This committee currently is in charge of conducting an inquiry on the role of carbon markets in preventing climate change. The committee's aims in visiting California are to discuss various perspectives on existing trading schemes and current developments in California and the United States. The UK has been a model globally on fighting global warming. They have a strong economy, a healthy environment. We can learn a lot from what they're doing overseas. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Tim Yeo, Chair of the Committee, the Honorable Colin Chowan, and the Honorable Ian Liddell Granger from the UK Parliament.
We join Senator Pavley in welcoming our guests from the United Kingdom. Senator Alquist, for what purpose do you rise?
I rise to recognize the departure of a staff person on the Health Committee.
Without objection.
And I'd like her to come up here, please. Please. This is Kelly Green, and many of you know her. We have a resolution in the works, which we will be presenting to her when it is ready. Kelly is a consultant to the Senate Health Committee. She does a fine job, and she's been a member of the Senate family since 1999. She started out as a district representative for former Senator Deborah Ortiz, and then became a consultant to the Health Committee, specializing in aging and long-term care and health care reform. Kelly is leaving us to join California Nurses Association. She will be sorely missed, and I hope you will join me in acknowledging what a great job she has done and bidding her a very fond farewell.
Senator Onestad at Senator Steinberg's desk. For what purpose do you rise, Senator?
Purposes of resolution?
At Senator Steinberg's desk. Without objection.
Members, with us in the Senate chamber today are members of a very special group from my district who are on a special mission this Memorial Day weekend to honor millions of men and women who have served this country during times of war and peace, namely our armed forces. They are from the Reading chapter of a group called the Missing in America Project. The resolution that I present today to the members of the Missing in America Project is in honor of their mission, which is to locate, identify, and inter the unclaimed remains of American veterans. The members of this chapter who join us today are on the first leg of an escort tour where they will deliver the remains of 3 American heroes to the Arlington National Cemetery. One of those remains is of Isaiah Mays, an African-American Buffalo soldier who served his nation during the Indian Wars and received this nation's highest honor for his defense of an Army paymaster. That was the Medal of Honor. And when he died in 1925, he was buried in a field in a pauper's grave. This weekend, more than 80 years later, he will finally receive what he has always deserved, a full military honors burial at Arlington National Cemetery. 2 other veterans who were awarded Silver Stars in World War II and the Vietnam War will also be given the proper respect and burial that they deserve in Arlington. With me today are Fred Salante of the Missing in America Project and Patty Callahan, the daughter of one of those veterans who's going to be honored. Members, the work of this fine group is just beginning. There are literally thousands of unclaimed remains of heroes throughout this country who are waiting to be discovered and respected. For the work of the Reading chapter of the Missing in America Project and the work of other chapters, please join me in presenting this resolution on behalf of the California Senate.
Thank you, Senator Onestad. We join you in welcoming your guests to the floor of the Senate. Members, we now return to Senate third reading. File item 22, Senator Cedillo. Absent. File item 23, Senator Weiland. Senator Weiland, file item 23? Pass on file. File item 24, Senator Leno. Pass. File item 25, Senator Wolk. Pass. File item 26, Senator Wolk. Pass. File item 27, Senator Ahlquist. Pass on file. File item 28, Senator Lowenthal. Senator Lowenthal, file item 28. Pass. File item 29, Senator Cedillo. Absent. File item 30, Senator Lowenthal. Pass. File item 31, Senator DeSaulnier. Not at his desk. File item 32, Senator Liu. Pass. File item 33, Senator Lowenthal. Pass. File item 34, Senator Flores. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Flores, an act relating to voters.
Thank you, members. This bill is a modest proposal to protect the fundamental right to vote. The bill merely changes the timeline to 4 presidential elections when a county registrar can counsel voters who are currently on the inactive list. Would ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion, members? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Benoit? Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? No. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? No. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? No. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? No. Yee? Yee aye. Padilla aye. Ashburn no. Denham no. Benoit no. Mr. President, ayes 21, noes 15.
Ayes 21, noes 15. The bill is passed. File item 35, Senator Oropesa. Absent. File item 36, Senator Wiggins. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 778 by Senator Wiggins, an act relating to commercial fishing.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 778 is a bill that continues the tradition of commercial fishermen dedicating a portion of their permit fees to help restore the salmon fisheries that sustain their industry. The Salmon Stamp Program has a long history of voluntary participation among a wide range of commercial fishermen. That's because they recognize their livelihood depends on the abundance of salmon. For the second year in a row, salmon populations number are so low that the National Marine Fisheries Service has banned all salmon fishing along the California and Oregon coastline. Because of the salmon crisis, fishermen are volunteering to raise the cost of salmon permits to $350. This measure is supported by the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Association. I ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? No. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Dutton? Flores? Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? Aye. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? Aye. Yee? Yee aye. Ducheney? Aye. Mr. President, ayes 30, noes 4.
Ayes 30. Ayes 30, noes 4. The bill is passed. Members, without objection, items 39 and 54, SB 543 and SB 773, respectively, will be withdrawn from the floor and referred to the Appropriations Committee. File item 37, Senator Negrete McLeod. Pass. File item 38, Senator Lowenthal. Pass. File item 39, Senator Leno. Pass. File item 40, Senator Wiggins. Pass. File item 41, Senator Yee. Pass. File item 42, Senator Leno. Pass. File item 43, Senator Oropesa. Absent. File item 44, Senator Oropesa. Absent. File item 45, Senator Yee. Pass. File item 46, Senator Negrete McLeod. Taken up. Thank you. File item 47, Senator Lowenthal. Secretary will read.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senator Lowenthal relative to pancreatic cancer.
Members, SJR 7 urges the President and the United States Congress to expand federally funded research efforts aimed at developing a reliable means of detecting cancer at its earliest stages and improving survival rates. This is really about pancreatic cancer, is really what it is. And as you know, members, pancreatic cancer is the deadliest of any cancer. 75% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of diagnosis, and 95% die within 5 years. Survival rates have not improved in over 3 decades. What SGR 7 recognizes is House Resolution 745 by Congresswoman Anna Eshoo to establish a pancreatic center initiative and an interdisciplinary pancreatic cancer coordinating committee to provide advice and overall research objectives and benchmarks for pancreatic cancer research. This is a very important resolution to bring awareness to pancreatic cancer, the most deadly of all cancers, and I urge you to vote aye on this resolution.
Senator Pavlik.
Just briefly, I rise in strong support of this. Here's an interesting statistic. Pancreatic cancer is the 4th leading cause of cancer death. 95% of all pancreatic cancer patients die within 5 years of diagnosis, and 75% die within the first year. We've been following the recent diagnosis of such people as Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Patrick Swayze. It's a critically important disease. I thank Senator Lowenthal for bringing this resolution to the floor.
Further debate or discussion? Without objection, we may substitute a unanimous roll call. All members present. There is objection? No. Without objection, we may substitute the unanimous roll call. Without objection, all members present. Ayes 36, no 0. Ayes 36, no 0. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
File item 48, Senator Lowenthal. File item 49, Senator Denham. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Denham, an act relating to healing arts, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. President, members, SB 132 establishes certification for sleep technicians through the Medical Board. This is a reintroduction of SB 1526, which I co-authored, and this House passed last year. That bill was vetoed with the general veto message given to many bills during the budget stalemate. This addresses a need in the sleep tech industry for standards and consumer protection that this bill provides. This program will be fully paid for by the industry, which is requesting the bill. It's supported by California Sleep Society, the California Society for Respiratory Care, and the CMA, among many others. It has no opposition and no votes. I'd ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Correa? Corbett, aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Aye. Hollingsworth? Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Romero. Runner. Aye. Semidian.
Aye.
Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Aye. Yee. Yee, aye. Mr. President, aye.
Ayes 34, no 0. The bill is passed. File item 50, Senator Flores. File item 50, SB number 135.
Pass on file.
Pass on file. File item 51, Senator Flores.
Yes.
Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 364 by Senator Flores, an act relating to health facilities.
Thank you, members. This is a very straightforward bill. The bill would prevent cancer research facilities from employing directors or officers that also profit from the sale of tobacco products. Would ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Benoit? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? No. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Oropesa? Negrete McLeod? No. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? No. Semidian?
Aye.
Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye. Mr. President, ayes 18, no 16.
Ayes 18, no 16. Call the absent members.
Cedillo? Oropesa? Romero? Steinberg? Steinberg, aye. Wright? Aye. Ayes 20, no 16.
Ayes 20, no 16. Senator Flores moves the call. File item 52, Senator Benoit. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 404 by Senator Benoit, an act relating to employment.
Members, Senate Bill 404 simply clarifies that employers have the option of providing wage information on a separate page when they're giving their paychecks. Current law requires that the pay stub be attached to the check. This simple change will allow flexibility that in some cases is necessary to allow the use of modern payroll and printer technologies. The previous version of the bill went significantly further and had opposition from a number of labor organizations. The bill has been amended. The California Labor Federation has told us that they are neutral on the bill, and it passed unanimously in the Senate and Labor and Industrial Relations Committee after those changes. I'd urge your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary will call the roll.
Onestad? Aye. Alquist? Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Harmon? Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Lowenthal? I. Maldonado. I. Negrete McLeod. Oropesa. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Romero. Runner. I. Semidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Walters. I. Wiggins. I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Weiland. I. Yee. E-I. Lou, I. Mr. President, ayes 32, no 0.
Ayes 32, no 0. The bill is passed. Members, we have guests in the gallery from the Santa Cruz Montessori School, who I'm privileged to represent. Please join me in welcoming them to the Senate today. Senator Flores asks that we lift the call on file item 51. File item 51, call the absent members.
Cedillo. Oropesa. Romero. Negrete McLeod, no to aye. Mr. President, ayes 21, noes 15.
Ayes 21, noes 15. The bill is passed. Senator Cox, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as you introduced some members in the gallery, let me introduce to you some young people from the Jackson Elementary School, fourth graders from Jackson, California.
Senate members, please welcome our guests in the gallery. Thank you, Senator Cox. Members, we are at file item 53 on Senate third reading. Senator Wolk. Pass on file. File item 54, Senator Flores. Up. That bill has been referred to the Rules Committee. File item 55, Senator Oropesa. Absent. File item 56, Senator Correa. One moment, Senator.
Yeah, that's on proposed special consent for Monday, or Tuesday.
Senator Correa, your bill is on proposed special consent for Tuesday. File item 57, Senator Kehoe. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 93 by Senator Kehoe, an act relating to redevelopment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, a number of you have been contacted about this bill. It is a redevelopment reform bill, and I want to point out to you that the League of Cities has changed its position from to a notice of support and a request for an aye vote. And I thank them for that. We've worked very diligently, and so has the League and the California Redevelopment Authority to get this bill in its current shape. It significantly tightens up redevelopment law by requiring redevelopment agencies to make additional findings before paying for public works with tax increment dollars outside the project area. The findings are three. Those works outside the project area must primarily benefit the project area, must help eliminate blight within the project area, and no other reasonable means of public financing exist. I would ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad. Aye. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Ducheney. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Romero. Runner. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Oops. Semidian. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. I. Wolk, I. Wright, I. Wyland, I. Yee, Yee, I. Correa, I. Benoit, I. Huff, I. Mr. President, ayes 34, no 0.
Ayes 34, noes 0. The bill is passed. Members, before we go to the next item on file, please note that we are visited today by former Assembly Speaker Pro Tem Fred Keeley, and we're pleased to welcome him to the chamber. File item 58, Senator Wiggins. Pass. File item 59, Senator Simitian. Pass. File item 60, Senator Calderon. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 94 by Senator Calderon, an act relating to mortgage loans.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 94 will crack down on a problem that's growing exponentially in California, the practice of loan modification consultants charging borrowers up front before providing loan modification services and then failing to help the borrower. Now, under the provisions of this bill, no one, not real estate brokers, not lawyers, no one will be able to charge a borrower up front for loan modification services. In addition, anyone else who wants to enter into a contract to charge for loan modification services after performing them must first give the borrower a notice informing them that similar services are available free of charge. Borrowers need to understand that they don't have to pay to get help modifying their loans. Now, SB 94 is supported by several housing counseling agencies: Consumers Union, the Labor Federation, the Center for Responsible Lending, ACORN, and the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. These organizations see the negative effects of loan modification consultants on a daily basis and believe that SB 94 will provide the needed protections for borrowers. I will also continue working with other interested parties as this bill moves, and I'm hopeful I can send a consensus measure to the governor. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Benoit? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? No. Simitian? Aye. Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye. Maldonado? No. Mr. President, ayes 24, noes 14.
Ayes 21, noes 14. The bill is passed. File item 62, Oropesa. Absent. File item 63. Forgive me. Senator Corbett, one moment, please. Senator Hollingsworth, for what purpose do you rise?
I'd like to call a very brief Republican caucus in room 305 for about 15, 20 minutes.
Republican caucus, room 305. Thank you, Senator Hollingsworth. Members, we are in recess for a Republican caucus. We are at file item 63. Senator Corbett, if we could ask members to take their seats, and if we could ask that absent members return to the Senate chambers so that we may take up file item 63. Senator Corbett, Secretary, please read. Senator Corbett, I have good news for you. Your proposed special consent.
On 63?
On file item 63.
Excellent. Thank you
that
very
takes
much.
us to file item 64 for Senator Maldonado. Not at his desk. File item 65, special consent. File item 66, special consent. File item 67, special consent. File item 68, Senator Yee, not at his desk. Senator Hollingsworth, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Purpose of introduction, Mr. President. Zion Lutheran School from Fallbrook, California, in my district, is in the gallery learning about California government today. They're there.
We want to join you in welcoming. File item 69, proposed special consent. File item 70, proposed special consent. File item 71, Senator Harmon, not at his desk. File item 72, Senator Corbett, back to you. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 305 by Senator Corbett, an act relating to school facilities.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Senate Bill 305 requires the Office of the State Architect to update the inventory of public school facilities that need to be seismically retrofitted. The information shall be used to inform the development of eligibility criteria for the seismic mitigation program. There's been a growing concern in the state that a number of our public schools are seismically unsafe. Additionally, prior to 2001, there were no methods in place to determine which schools were unsafe and where they were located. The only information we currently have is from what was required under legislation passed in 1998. This information has become outdated, and this legislation will benefit the state by giving us a clear idea and an updated idea as to what our seismic safety needs are in our schools. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Benoit? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Corbett?
Aye.
Aye. Correa? Cox? No. Denham? Aye. Desaunier? Aye. DeCheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? No. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? Yee? Ashburn? No. Correa? Aye. Mr. President, ayes 22, noes 10.
Ayes 22, noes 10. The bill is passed. File item 73, special consent. File item 74, special consent. File item 75, special consent. Senator Corbett, for what purpose?
Yes, Mr. President. I was just wondering, we passed over item 18 earlier. It's ready to go if you're willing.
File item 18. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 196 by Senator Corbett, an act relating to health care coverage.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Senate Bill 196 requires cost information be bundled as an episode of care, including but not limited to diagnostic tests, prescription drugs, hospital days, and physician fees. I'm working with the California Medical Association and the California Hospital Association on this issue as we continue to move the bill forward. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Benoit? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Corbett? Aye. Correa? Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? No. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? No. Semidian? Aye. Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Wyland? No. Yee? Yee aye. Wright aye.
Call the absent members.
Cedillo? Cogdill? Correa? Aye. DeCheney? Harmon? Oropesa? Romero? DeCheney, aye. Mr. President, ayes 21, noes 13.
Ayes 21, noes 13. The bill is passed. Senator Walters, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, for purpose of introduction.
Please.
Mr. President and Senators, I'd like to introduce to you in the gallery Ms. Harris's St. Margaret's fourth grade class here from San Juan Capistrano.
We join you in welcoming them to the Senate chambers.
And just for the record, Mr. President, I actually don't represent their school anymore. My kids do attend that school, but Senator Wyland actually is the representative for San Juan Capistrano.
I'm sure the Senate appreciates your willingness to reach across those artificial boundaries, Senator. Thank you very much. File item 77, Senator Calderon. Pass on file. File item 78, Senator Yee. Please read.
Senate Bill 535 by Senator Yee, an act relating to vehicles.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senators, SB 535 is intended to encourage rapid adaptation of the advanced technology vehicles through access to HOV lane system. The bill will permit qualified low-emission vehicles to continue to access HOV lanes. Specifically, 535 will continue to allow the existing hybrid to continue to use the GO decals until 2011 and allow white decal vehicles to access HOV lanes. It's estimated that there are approximately 9,000 vehicles that would qualify for white decal. This bill is a work in progress as we establish new sets of emission standards. We'll continue with the continued consultation of the Senate Transportation Committee. We'll be developing new authority for the next generation of advanced technology vehicles to gain access to HOV lanes as an incentive for consumers. A key condition for the committee is a reduction in authorized number of these vehicles below the 85,000 expiring GO decals. And of course, this measure will come back for concurrence for a full vote on those amendments. And urge an aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Senator Pavley.
Just one or two questions. I understand this is a work in progress and a little bit something about alternative fuel vehicles and HOV lanes. And it's General Motors, so I assume this is the Chevy Volt, the plug-in hybrids coming out. But one thing different in this proposal than other proposals is there's no miles per gallon standard. And so there could be a lot of vehicles coming out that might meet some of these thresholds, but we know there's limited lane capacity in HOV lanes, and it should be for the most fuel efficient and cleanest vehicles out there. And so as this bill moves through the process, I would like you to consider a miles per gallon standard, because as you know, a plug-in hybrid, about 40 miles on the electric, and then it's in the regular internal combustion engine gasoline, which can go a long distances. And so I'm just concerned that that we may benefit one technology and open up the door to a lot of other technologies that maybe aren't the cleanest, most fuel-efficient vehicles on the market. But I appreciate Chevy's efforts in promoting their plug-in hybrid technology.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I missed the discussion and the vote on the floor, but I rise in opposition to this bill. I believe that we crafted a network of high-occupancy vehicle lanes within this state to provide just that, space for high-occupancy vehicles. Many people in this legislature are committed to having public transit carry more people. And one of the niches we find is in outlawing suburban areas. They use the high occupancy lanes to move those buses with high capacity. People that have the alternative to take their car or take public transit are using the HOV lanes in the buses. And so when we clog it with politically correct vehicles, what we're doing is we are saying because one person has the money to buy an experimental vehicle or a low emission vehicle, that's a higher priority than moving people in volume as this was anticipated. I think this is poor policy. Right now, and I believe you will see in the future, people will buy high technology, low emission vehicles because they are fuel efficient. And with the recent crisis we had with fuel costs, with them back on the rise again, they will sell on the natural, they will move on the natural. I think this is bad policy. I urge your no vote.
Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Yee, you may close.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senators, let me respond to, I think, Senator Pavley's issues. She's absolutely correct. We are going to, however, factor some of the concerns that she's raised, and I think the concern of the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. This is, in fact, a work in progress. We need to somehow be in a position where we are at the beginning of supporting this new advanced technology rather than sort of at the tail end of that. I think with Senator Huff, I also agree, but we've got to somehow provide some incentive for the development of these kinds of technology and keeping some of our jobs and our businesses here, not only in California, but also in the United States. And that's why this is so important. Urge an aye vote.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. No. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. No. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Ducheney. No. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Aye. Hancock. Harmon. Hollingsworth. No. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Romero. Runner. No. Samidian. Aye. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. No. Yee. Yee, aye. Hollingsworth, no to aye. Cogdill, aye. Maldonado, aye. Correa, aye. Hancock, aye. Benoit, no to aye. Mr. President, ayes 29, noes 5.
Ayes 29, noes 5. The bill is passed. File item 79, Senator Padilla. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 552 by Senator Padilla, an act relating to schools.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, SB 552 would simply require that 15 minutes of organ donation education be included in 9th or 10th grade health classes. As many of you know, the California Online Donor Registry was established only 4 years ago, yet is already responsible for having saved more than 300 lives through organ donations and touching even more lives through a tissue donation. The vast majority of folks who sign up to be an organ donor do so through the DMV. When we apply for driver's licenses or driver's license renewals. Last year alone, the Department of Motor Vehicle issued 8.5 million driver's license applications, or processed them, I should say. 23% of the people checked the organ donor box. In states like Iowa, the rate of participation is 67%. In Washington, the participation rate is 54%. In Ohio, it's 53%. And so we ask the question, why? Why do we participate at a lower level when other states participate at a higher level? And the answer was pretty clear. When the vast majority of young people who are going to apply for their driver's license the first time have the information, they participate. When they have not been educated, they don't. So that's the purpose of this bill, to educate young people through their high school health classes before they go and apply for their driver's license. We have the commitment of organizations like Donate Life California and other nonprofits to supply the relevant materials to schools. There's no fiscal cost to the school district or to the state general fund. I'd ask you to, not only for your aye vote, but this bill was supported on a bipartisan basis in committee. Thank you.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Forgive me, Senator Runner.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. I rise reluctantly to oppose the bill. And let me just briefly explain why. And you may think, gee, this is interesting. Isn't Sharon on a lung transplant donation list? And the answer is yes, she is. But here's the issue for me, I guess, one in a broader way, but one in a very specific way. First of all, in the broadest public policy way, this is a year when we're talking about limiting school days. This is a time when we're talking about trying to remove mandates. This is another mandate that goes back on schools. But in the specific issue, in regards to this particular concept, let me make it perfectly clear. I've carried each year, a number of years, along with Sharon, the resolution supporting the issue of transplants and organ donation. I'm supporting a bill that's coming over from the other side, I hope, which puts in now in your registration for your vehicle the ability to sign up at that time to go on a transplant list. I think that's a great, important contact. It's much more than what happens now when you go into the DMV and you choose to do it or you have to go online. Getting an annual contact, I think, is going to boost those numbers. Here's my problem with this as a mandate, and that is you can mandate something to take place in terms of the classroom, but you can't mandate the quality of the information and the belief of the person who's communicating it in regards to their belief. Now, as somebody who lives right now in the issue of organ transplant, I can tell you that there's a lot of people with different beliefs out there. They have different philosophies. And to force everybody into the assumption that everybody else there feels okay about it or has the right feeling about it and telling all those teachers who that now you're going to have to present material on it, I think is not realistic. And quite frankly, could have some unintended bad consequence. So I'm a believer in the concept, or in the issue of organ donation. It's real. We've got to get it out there. But to mandate everybody talk about it in every classroom, you know, in California, I think could have some hard and unintended consequences that could give bad information and wrong information. Even if the material is supplied, doesn't necessarily mean that they use it or that it's presented well. So for that reason, I reluctantly oppose this particular path.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Padilla, you may close.
Still ask your aye vote colleagues 15 minutes to save a life, 15 minutes to touch dozens and dozens of lives. This isn't a mandate to force people to become registered. This is simply putting the information out there and letting people make an informed decision when asked a question on your DMV application. Thank you.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested, Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. No. Benoit. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. Cox. No. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Duchesne. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Romero. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. No. Wiggins. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Aye. Yee. Yee, aye. Cogdill, no. Onestad, no.
Mr. President, ayes 26, no 7. Ayes 26, no 7. The bill is passed. File item 80, Senator Kehoe, we have amendments pending. Passed. File item 81, Senator Yee, proposed special consent. File item 82, Senator Steinberg. Passed. File item 83, proposed special consent. File item 84, Senator Ashburn. File item 84, SB 623, Senator Ashburn. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 623 by Senator Ashburn, an act relating to civil service appointments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this measure allows the State Personnel Board to extend limited term appointments beyond the current 2-year limit for an additional 2 years for certain circumstances important for retaining the expertise of employees who have been working on time-limited projects and studies. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad. Aye. Alquist. Ashburn. Aye. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Duchesne. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Aye. Hancock. No. Harmon. Hollingsworth. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. No. Oropesa. Padilla. Pavley. Romero. Runner. Semidian. Steinberg. Strickland. Strickland, aye. Steinberg, aye. Walters. Aye. Wiggins. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Aye. Yee. Yee, no. DeSaulnier, aye to no. Runner, aye. Leno, aye to no.
Mr. President, ayes 22, noes 5. Ayes 22, noes 5. The bill is passed. File item 85, proposed special consent. File item 86, Senator Lowenthal. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 632 by Senator Lowenthal, an act relating to ports.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. SB 632 requires the ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Oakland by July 1, 2010 to assess their infrastructure and air quality improvement needs, including assessing the total costs for these projects and identify potential sources for funding them. The bill requires that the ports consult with various local government entities, including local air districts, when compiling this assessment, and that they should update information in already completed reports and that they should update the information that's already been done in reports such as the Goods Movement Action Plan and the Goods Movement Emission Reduction Plan. Members, we have now estimated that the cost to build the infrastructure and to improve the air quality is somewhere around $30 billion. With bonds, we have now about $3 billion. All this does is say, where is the money going to come from? Help us to define, come back to the legislature. There is no opposition to this bill. Everyone agrees that this is a needed step. I urge your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion. Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Benoit. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Duchesne. Dutton. Flores. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hollingsworth. No. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Maldonado. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Romero. Runner. Aye. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Strickland. Aye. Walters. No. Wiggins. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Weiland. Aye. Yee. Yee aye. Ashburn aye. Flores aye. Onnested no. Duchesne aye. Mr. President, ayes 29, noes 4.
Ayes 29, noes 4. The bill is passed. File item 87, proposed special consent. File item 88, Senator DeSaulnier. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 702 by Senator DeSaulnier, an act relating to child daycare.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that came from a program that you established. There ought to be a law. It's from a constituent who went to a health club with her 5-year-old child, left her in daycare, and unfortunately, while she was in daycare, the other child was abused by the employee of the healthcare clinic, or the health club. It turns out that employees of these kind of daycare or child care facilities have no oversight. This bill would require that employees of these facilities would be put into the state's trust line registry at a cost of $125. This employee actually was there illegally, and subsequently it's going through civil procedures and criminal procedures. But we've been told, anecdotally at least, that this happens all too often. So while we are appreciative of health clubs and stores providing daycare, we think this is an important and relatively inexpensive thing to ask them to do to make sure that people like my constituent's daughter won't be in this kind of situation. It has had bipartisan support so far. It has no opposition, and it's supported by the Child Abuse Prevention Center. And I would ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? No. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier?
Aye.
Aye. Duchesne? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? Aye. Semidian?
Aye.
Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? Aye. Walters? Wiggins? I. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Weiland. I. Yee. Yee, aye. Benoit, no. Mr. President, ayes 27, noes 4.
Ayes 27, noes 4. The bill is
Hollingsworth, aye. Ayes 28, noes 4.
Ayes 28, noes 4. The bill is passed. Senator Duchesne, for what purpose do you rise?
To request that we take up SB 61 without reference to file.
Without objection, SB 61 without reference to file. Senator Duchesne, we will ask the Secretary to read.
Senate Bill 61 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review, an act relating to the Budget Act of 2009.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, this is the bill that would be the vehicle for the conference committee that we propose to start this afternoon. It has come over to us from the Assembly, and I would request your no vote to non-concur so that this may go to conference and allow us to start our new 10-person conference committee. It will be 5 members from each House. Ask for your aye vote. No vote. No vote. No vote. No vote.
Member Senator Duchesne asked for a no vote. If there is no objection, we can use a unanimous roll call reverse vote. Ayes 0, noes 36. Ayes 0, noes 36. Without objection, do we have an objection? Senator Dutton. Senator Dutton? All right. Without objection, ayes 0, noes 36. The measure is not concurred in. Senator Duchesne?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. I then move that we suspend Joint Rules 28, 28.1, and 29.5 so that we may establish the 10-person conference committee, 5 members from each House.
Resolution is at the desk. Secretary will read. We'll then call the roll.
Resolved that Joint Rules 28, 28.1, and 29.5 be dispensed with as requested.
If there's no objection, we can accept a unanimous roll call. Ayes 36, noes 0. Motion is adopted. Senator Duchesne, are we clear? All right then. Members, that takes us back to Senate third reading. File item 89, proposed special consent. File item 90, proposed special consent. 91, proposed special consent. File item 92, Senator Pavley. Pass. File item 93, Senator DeSaulnier. Passed on file. File item 94, proposed special consent. File item 95, proposed special consent. File item 96, Senator Oropesa absent. File item 97. One moment, Senator.
FPPC bill, we can't take that.
Because?
Because it was amended yesterday, we have to wait 12 days before it can pass. Take it up.
Senator Strickland, I'm advised that because of the recent amendments, we have to wait 12 days before the measure may be considered. File item 98, proposed special consent. File item 99, special consent. File item 100, Senator Yee. Pass. File item 101, Senator Liu. Pass. File item 102, Senator DeSaulnier. Pass on file. File item 103, Senator Leno. Pass. File item 104, Senator Flores. Pass. File item 105, Senator Calderon. Pass. File item 106, Senator Wright. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 156 by Senator Wright, an act relating to insurance fraud.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is actually a very simple bill. What it does is an extension of what I started in the Assembly that allows the investigators for insurance companies, in consultation with district attorneys and the insurance department, to actually come together and discuss insurance fraud. Members, insurance fraud in California is a multi-billion-dollar business. An estimate is that in some instances you pay as much as $300 or $400 per year in premiums to make up for the level of fraud that we have. There are some amendments that we took in the Judiciary Committee to narrow the scope. This bill was unanimous in the Banking and Insurance and Banking Committee. There's some concern always about how much immunity do you give people, and the reason for the bill and the reason we need it is because there's a concern that the insurance people might have gotten together and colluded. Again, we will further refine this bill to make sure that it only applies to the investigators, that they're in the presence of law enforcement as they have these meetings. What these meetings provide is the ability to track trends in different kinds of insurance fraud. You need to provide some level of immunity so that they don't become exposed to antitrust concerns, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Secretary, call the roll.
Onestad? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Romero? Runner? Aye. Simidian? Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? Steinberg, aye. Strickland, aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Weiland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. DeSaulnier, aye. Benoit, aye. Mr. President, ayes 35, no 0.
Ayes 35, no 0. The bill is passed. Members, the hour of 12 o'clock is almost upon us. Without objection, we're going to move from Senate third reading to the consent calendar and wharf consent. Any objection to substituting the unanimous roll call on both items? Then without objection, ayes 36, no 0 on the consent calendar, ayes 36, no 0 on the wharf consent. If there's no other business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. President, just want to announce that we will have session at noon. At noon on Tuesday, Budget Conference Committee will begin this afternoon. And I want to wish everybody a nice weekend, and we will all think about those who have lost their lives in the line of duty this Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Members, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30.
Senator Padilla.
Forgive me, Senator Padilla, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Simply to announce that the Energy Committee will meet upon adjournment in 3191 for our informational hearing on the proposed Climate Change Institute immediately upon adjournment.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. Senator Correa, for what purpose do you rise?
Adjourn in the memory. I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Reginald Reggie Crozier. Our prayers and thoughts today are with his wife, Edelgard. He passed away Friday, May 15th, after being a resident of Westminster for 51 years.
Thank you, Senator Correa. If you'll be sure to bring the request to the desk, and please share our sympathies with friends and family. Senator Kehoe, for what purpose do you rise?
Also for an adjourned in memory, Mr. President.
One moment, Senator Kehoe. Members, if we could ask that members take their seats and give us 1 or 2 more moments of silence so that Senator Kehoe can proceed with her adjourn in memory.
I do thank you for that, Mr. President, and this is sadly very appropriate on Memorial Day. I want the Senate to adjourn in memory of 5 Navy crewmen who went down off the coast of San Diego in a Navy helicopter. They were Coronado SEALs. One young man has been identified, Aaron Klingman, Navy SEAL, 25 years old. The others 2 are still being searched for. 3 are confirmed fatalities, but their names, other than Mr. Klingman, haven't been released. We certainly remember their service and think of all the sailors that are training in Coronado and hope for their safety.
Thank you, Senator Kehoe, and if you'll be sure to bring your in memoriam request to the desk, please extend our condolences to the friends and families of those who lost their lives and to all who've lost their life in service. Members, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Tuesday at noon. We are adjourned.